welcome back to the Football Zone and to the first Premier League and EFL review. After all the games that took place over the weekend, we review all of them, including the Merseyside derby and Reading v Stoke in a mid-table championship clash. Let's go. And the first game of the weekend was at Carrow Road for Norwich 0, Southampton 3. Danny Ings scored in the 49th minute, Armstrong in the 54th and Redmond in the 79th. I really thought this would be Norwich's opportunity, a pretty easy game against a Southampton team that don't have much to play for, to get off to a good start with an easier run in and try and stay up, but it wasn't to be, and I think this is probably the last chance for Norwich and they will definitely be playing Championship football next season. Moving on now to Tottenham 1, Man United 1. Stephen Bergwijn opened the scoring in the 27th minute after shocking defending from Harry Maguire and David De Gea in particular. Then Bruno Fernandes levelled from the penalty spot after Eric Dyer fouled Paul Pogba. Probably a fair result on reflection, even though Man United had a penalty in the 89th minute, which was overturned by VAR after Fernandes collided with a defender. However, the ref deemed there wasn't enough contact. Moving on now to Watford 1, Leicester 1. A fairly low-key affair until the 90th minute when Ben Chilwell's stunning strike put Leicester ahead. When they thought they'd won it, Craig Dawson just got it past Kasper Schmeichel in the dying moments of stoppage time to earn Watford a crucial point in their relegation battle. But it also could have big consequences for Leicester in the Champions League race, even though I think Leicester will just manage to survive. Moving on now to Brighton 2, Arsenal 1. In the first half, Neil Maupay, I think it was accidentally injured, Bern Leno. It looked like a horrible injury. So Emi Martinez came on for the rest of the game. Nicolas Pepe put Arsenal ahead in the 68th minute with a fine strike. However, Brighton equalised through Lewis Dunk in the 75th minute. And in the 95th minute, Maupay clean through, put it past Emi Martinez to secure a huge win for Arsenal. And after the match, tensions flared with Matteo Guendouzi grabbing Maupay by the neck, but somehow won't face any action. But a mad game, and it definitely puts big pressure on Arteta. The next Premier League game was West Ham 0, Wolves 2. I thought West Ham were doing really well, keeping Wolves the better side out, and then Adama Traore came on and he just caused havoc. Wolves went ahead through Raul Jimenez in the 73rd minute, and then an incredible strike by Pedro Neto in the 84th minute secured the win. This puts West Ham in deep trouble with their next couple of fixtures being really, really tough, and definitely puts Wolves back into Champions League contention. Next up, the final game on Saturday, Bournemouth 0, Crystal Palace 2. Crystal Palace picking up the 2-0 win here. I really thought this was going to be an opportunity for Bournemouth against a team that has nothing to play for to get a win and reignite their survival challenge, a bit like Norwich, but it wasn't to be. Milivojevic put them in front in the 12th minute with an incredible free kick, and then Ayew scored in the 23rd to double the lead. This, like West Ham, puts Bournemouth in big trouble, and it'll be interesting to see how they react. The first game on Sunday was Newcastle 3, Sheffield United 0. Sheffield United had held out in a dull first half, but when John Egan got sent off in the 50th minute, it was always going to be tough. St Maximin put Newcastle ahead after a slip from Ender Stevens allowed him through. Matt Ritchie and Joe Linton also scored for once in what was a pretty comfortable win for Newcastle, and I do worry about Sheffield United. I think the breaks had a negative effect on them, as does having no fans in the ground. Next up, Villa 1, Chelsea 2. Chelsea dominated the first half, however against the run of play, Courtney Hause put Villa 1-0 up, and they held out pretty well actually, to be fair, until the 60th minute when Pulisic came off the bench to score and Giroud added second 2 minutes later. And since then, Villa just couldn't really get back into the game. You always felt when one came, two would came. And you do worry for Villa when they leak that goals that easily. But anyway, it's a huge result for Chelsea in their race to secure the Champions League football. And the last Premier League game was Man City 5, Burnley 0. When Man City went 2-0 up, I'm going to be honest, I went and put the League 2 playoffs on because it was just so obvious Burnley weren't going to get anywhere near Man City because they've just come back from lockdown so good. Foden with a brace, which is good to see. Mahrez also with a brace, and David Silva with a goal as well. Aguero went off injured, so we don't know how serious that is. That's probably the main talking point of the match, besides from the flag. But we're not going to talk about that. So on to the EFL we go, and the first match, a huge result in the race for the Premier League. Fulham 0, Brentford 2. 0-0 after 88 minutes. Then Saeed Brahmrama, the man who's been wanted by Chelsea, Leicester and those sorts of club, put Brentford 1-0 up with a great goal. And Emmanuel Macrondes sealed it off in the 91st minute, securing a huge win for Brentford, which puts them, I wouldn't say in the automatic promotion race as they're still 8 points off, but definitely gives them a big boost ahead of the rest of the season. The other game on Saturday lunchtime was Middlesbrough 0, Swansea 3. I couldn't believe this. I was sat there 0-0, made a cup of tea, and by the time I got back it was 3-0. With goals from Rui and Brewster, a brace in fact, and the penalty from Andre Ayew. Can't believe they didn't give Brewster the penalty, but still a great result for Swans, and definitely puts them back in playoff contention, I would say. And we have big news from Middlesbrough in their battle for survival. Jonathan Woodgate has been replaced by Neil Warnock, so that pretty much completes their survival mission, in my opinion. Brilliant Championship manager Warnock, and they'll stay up no problem at all now. The 1 o'clock kickoff was Millwall 2, Derby 3 at the Den. Millwall went 1-0 up early on, and then it was all about that man, Louis Sibley. I watched this game and I didn't realise he was 18 years old, but man oh man, he was incredible, and it really wouldn't surprise me if the big clubs were looking at him, because this performance was something else. I wasn't too aware of him, but what a talent he looks. Millwall pulled back a goal in stoppage time, but it wasn't enough from Sibley's brilliance, and that's a huge blow for Millwall in the playoff race, and kind of brings Derby into it. 3 points off, but a load of traffic in between, so unlikely but possible, I suppose. A huge game at the foot of the Championship now. Huddersfield 0, Wigan 2. Wigan, before lockdown, were doing really well, picking up wins away at West Brom and edging themselves away from a relegation zone. I didn't know if it would continue after lockdown, but it seems like it has. A great win away at Huddersfield, and that puts them pretty well clear of the relegation zone. However, it brings Huddersfield right back into it, just 1 point clear of Hull, who are now in 22nd. And then a big game in the race for the playoffs, Blackburn 3, Bristol City 1. This was a huge game for Bristol City, who were looking to leapfrog Preston into 6th, but instead of being leapfrogged by Blackburn, and they moved to just 1 point within the playoffs, whereas Bristol City are 2 points, which just shows how close it is. But this is a really disappointing result for Bristol City, as I thought they could really push on here, but it wasn't to be. Moving on now to an even bigger game at the foot of the Championship. Banter Club of the Year, Hull 0, Charlton 1. Charlton got the lead after shambolic goalkeeping by George Long in the 19th minute, and since then they had no answer. Hull not having their players who refused to sign on due to the state of the club definitely hurt them here, and to be honest they looked even worse than before lockdown. It has emerged that the Alams, the owners of Hull, have banned the whole Daily Mail from attending their games, which just is an even bigger piss take, and I feel sorry for Hull, as they really do look nailed on for relegation now. And then Nathan Jones's return to Luton. They drew 1-1 against Preston, in which was a result that won't suit either team. Preston took the lead through Scott Sinclair, and then, however, with about 20 minutes to go, Luton equalised despite not having a shot all game to make it 1-1. Really doesn't help against Luton's battle for survival, and Preston probably needed a draw just to pull away in 6th place, so a draw won't suit either team. Next up, QPR, who have nothing to play for, in actually a surprising result, losing at home to Barnsley after an early goal, and QPR just didn't do anything about it. I was expecting them to bounce back, but no. It doesn't really affect QPR, but could this provide a ground for Barnsley to stay up within 4 points now? And you never know with the Championship. I really didn't see this result coming, and it'll be interesting to see if Barnsley can kick on now and possibly survive. The next game was Reading 1, Stoke 1. Reading went into the lead early on through Lucas Schwal, who scored for the first time since New Year's Day when he went off injured. However, Stoke equalised in the 92nd minute for a corner that wasn't even a corner, despite being thoroughly outplayed. Won't affect the Royals too much, but a huge result for the Potters in their battle to stay in the Championship. A very similar story in this game, actually. Forest took the lead early on through Joe Lolly, and then in the stoppage time, Sheffield Wednesday equalised. However, this time, a point for Sheffield Wednesday won't affect them too much. They're in a similar position to Reading, not much to play for. However, it'd been gutting for Forest, who are possibly chasing an automatic promotion place, but I think that's gone out of the window now. May still possibly have had a chance. They won that, but still very unlikely. And then the Birmingham derby, West Brom 0, Birmingham 0. I was expecting West Brom to destroy Birmingham here, but it wasn't to be. Very low-key affair, actually. You wouldn't have thought West Brom were just weeks away from being promoted to the Premier League. With Pep Clotet going, I thought West Brom would riot them here, but it wasn't to be. Won't affect West Brom too much and doesn't affect Birmingham. They're mid-table, but I was just surprised to see such a low-scoring affair. And last but not least, Leeds. Is it happening again? Surely not. I don't know. I think we'll find out next week. Leeds v Fulham. If Leeds win, they're 10 points clear. If they lose, it's just 4 points. So it's either done or it's very much back on. But what a huge game that is now. Leeds were very unlucky here, but I was surprised to see Cardiff up to 7th now and just outside of the playoffs by 1 point. They've flown up the table before lockdown, so could they have a chance of getting in the playoffs? Who knows? And then looking through the tables, Liverpool still top of the Premier League by absolute miles, with Man City second. The gap between Chelsea and Man United is now 5 points, so that's pretty secure, and Wolves are level on points. Then we have a pretty big gap now, and if we look towards the relegation zone, Bournemouth are still in the relegation zone on 27, West Ham also on 27, Watford on 28, Brighton 32. I think they may be safe. But anyways, looking onto the Championship, West Brom have leapfrog Leeds on goal difference, with Fulham 7 points behind and Brentford just a further point behind. Preston and Cardiff level on goal difference. Blackburn, Swansea 56, Bristol City 55, Millwall and Derby 54. They still probably have a chance, it has to be said. And looking at the relegation zone, Huddersfield 42, Charlton 42, Stoke 43, Wigan 44, Hull 41, Barnsley 37, Luton 36. Also have a chance going down. So it's very close in both relegation battles and the battle for the playoffs in the Championship. So still a lot to focus on, even if the title races may be dead. But anyway, that's it. Thanks very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe to my channels on the screen. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you thought about this round of fixtures. Link to Twitter in the description below for daily football news. And I think I said it all. I'll be doing a prediction on Twitter to each Premier League game rather than a big video on YouTube. So make sure you follow me on Twitter for that. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.